This is the story of a painting that has been deceiving us for nearly 400 years, starting with the name. It is called The Night Watch. The action takes place at first light of dawn, and the title everyone repeats did not appear until 1797, 155 years after Rembrandt finished it. A thick, dark yellow varnish had been darkening the image over the centuries. Someone assumed it depicted a nighttime scene, and the error calcified forever. 30 people are working right now inside the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam on the largest research and restoration operation ever devoted to a single work of art, a project christened Operation Night Watch that has been rewriting since 2019 what we thought we knew about how Rembrandt worked. Beneath the layers of varnish, paint, and centuries of assumptions, they have located a lead layer no expert suspected, identified arsenic pigments Rembrandt should not have applied in a portrait, unearthed a hidden preparatory sketch that scholars had been chasing for decades, and reconstructed with artificial intelligence the sections of the canvas that someone mutilated with scissors in 1715. To understand why each of these findings matters, you first have to understand what this painting depicts and why, for nearly 4 centuries, no one saw it as Rembrandt conceived it. Toward the end of 1640, a militia company from District 2 of Amsterdam contacted Rembrandt van Rijn to commission a group portrait destined for the new banqueting hall of their headquarters, the Kloveniersdoelen. Leading the company were Captain Frans Banning Koch and his lieutenant Willem van Rutenburg, and what we know for certain is that the commission arrived before December 1640 because one of the guardsmen portrayed died around that date. The politics of the era explain the ambition behind the project. Spanish forces had retreated to Belgium, Dutch independence from Spain was fast approaching, and although the Treaty of Münster that would close the 80 Years' War would not be signed until 1648, the so-called Dutch Golden Age was at its most intense. The militiamen wanted to celebrate themselves and see themselves immortalized on a wall. 300 guilders was what an average worker earned in a year, and what Rembrandt charged for this commission amounted to 1,600, a gap that gives the measure of the project. 18 commissioners funded the work, and each paid roughly 100 guilders to appear on the canvas, some a bit more, others less, depending on the position they would occupy in the final composition. The canvas turned out so enormous that it did not fit in Rembrandt's Amsterdam studio, and what is believed is that he completed it in a shed in the garden of his house. When he finished it in 1642, the work contained 34 figures, of which only 18 corresponded to real people, while the remaining 16 functioned as symbolic presences, including a young woman in a pale yellow dress, traditionally considered the mascot of the guard. A fact that gives the measure of what happened in that shed. Rembrandt, unlike many of his contemporaries, never set foot abroad nor studied outside the Netherlands, and yet what he created within those 4 walls altered forever the way a group portrait was conceived. Before Rembrandt, militia group portraits obeyed a rigid formula in which the members posed in orderly rows or sat around a table during a banquet, all visible, all given the same visual weight, fulfilling a strict function, that every person who had paid could be recognized immediately. They did not function as works of art, they functioned as records. Rembrandt dismantled each of those conventions. Where before there had been a static composition, he built a scene in motion where his masterful chiaroscuro bathed certain figures in light and plunged others into shadow, injecting dramatic action into a subject that until then had operated like a formal photograph. No artist before him had staged a group portrait as a history painting, the most prestigious genre of the period, and that decision split the tradition in two. What he hid inside the composition betrays a sense of humor and a visual intelligence that deserves attention. From the belt of the girl dressed in yellow, the company's mascot, hangs a chicken, and the conceit works like this. The arquebusiers, Koch's militia, bore 2 bird claws on their coat of arms, because in Dutch, the sounds of clover, arquebus, and klauw, claw, are similar. Rembrandt interwove that loaded symbolism with reality by also placing the company's silver drinking horn on the same figure. The captain's colors were not left to chance either. Rembrandt dressed Banning Koch in the red and black of Amsterdam, when militia captains typically wore a blue sash with gold lace, and the shadow of Koch's hand falls on Van Ruytenberg's coat, precisely where the city's coat of arms appears subtly embroidered in the fabric. An element that can no longer be seen with the naked eye once added drama to the scene, a wisp of musket smoke that swirled around Banning Koch's head, completely erased by deterioration. The Operation Night Watch scan showed that Rembrandt tried to prevent that degradation with a brown quartz paint ground, an effort that failed but reveals how much the fragility of certain materials worried him. And those materials deserve attention in their own right. Carmine produced by crushing cochineal insects, lead white, lead tin yellow that produced a lemony tone, smalt made from crushed cobalt glass, and arsenic to add depth to orange and gold tones. We will return to the arsenic later, because that piece of data became one of the most striking findings of Operation Night Watch. Certain art historians interpret the entire scene as a light pictorial joke, a kind of pantomime in which 18 militiamen gallantly perform the art of civic defense. The painting has come to symbolize European democratic values, although Rembrandt's intention was unlikely to have aimed at anything so solemn. In 1715, something happened that admits no repair. Someone decided to move the painting to Amsterdam's town hall. The canvas did not fit through the doors, and the solution was to cut it on all 4 sides. The strips of cloth apparently vanished. 2 complete figures disappeared from the left side, along with the upper part of the arch, the balustrade, and the edge of the step, and what no one measured at that moment was the damage to the composition. By trimming the edges, the figures of the lieutenants ended up centered in the painting, when Rembrandt had deliberately placed them off-center, marching toward an empty space that generated tension and movement, and that compositional dynamic ceased to exist with each snip of the scissors. In 2021, the Operation Night Watch team tackled the problem with artificial intelligence, using as a starting point a copy of the painting that Gerrit Lundens had made before the mutilation. They trained an algorithm to convert Lundens' style into Rembrandt's, and the recreation even corrected the perspective, since Lundens must have been seated to the left of the painting when he prepared his copy, which slightly distorted the proportions. 60 centimeters added to the left side, 22 to the top, and 12 to the bottom made up the printed extensions placed around the original canvas, and the painting was displayed in this configuration from June to September 2021. Taco Divitz, director of the Rijksmuseum, summed it up with a direct phrase: "Rembrandt would definitely have made it more beautiful, but this comes very close." Regarding the original fragments someone cut away more than 3 centuries ago, a slender hope remains. Divitz has stated that at least the left side may not have ended up destroyed, because it contained 3 figures, and at the time of the mutilation Rembrandt's paintings already commanded high prices. To this day, no one has located them. Surviving the scissors of 1715 did not mark the last trial for the Night Watch, because over the course of the 20th century, it suffered 3 acts of vandalism, and an ironic detail connects the first 2. The 13th of January 1911, an unemployed cobbler and former Navy cook tried to slash the painting with a cobbler's knife as a protest against his inability to find work, and the thick layer of varnish covering the work absorbed the blows without the canvas sustaining real damage. That varnish functioned as an accidental shield, and that is where the irony comes in. That same protective varnish was removed in the 1940s, leaving the painting unprotected just in time for the second attack. On the 14th of September 1975, an unemployed teacher named Wilhelmus de Rijk slashed it with a bread knife and inflicted 12 cuts on the canvas, with several zigzag incisions up to 30 centimeters long. De Rijk suffered from mental illness and declared he had done it for the Lord, that he had been ordered to do it. 6 months were consumed by the restoration, and the painting returned to display in March 1976, although evidence of the cuts is still visible up close. Without that thick varnish that had shielded it in 1911, the damage of 1975 became far more difficult to repair. The third attack came in 1990, when an escaped psychiatric patient sprayed the painting with concentrated sulfuric acid, and the quick reaction of a guard limited the damage to the varnish. Scissors, cobbler's knives, bread knives, sulfuric acid, and the painting still hangs in the same room. At least 4 documented relinings record how many times it has needed intervention: in 1975 after de Rijk's attack, in 1945 when it returned from its wartime hiding place, in 1851 during the first documented wax resin relining, and possibly in 1795 or even as early as 1758. The war itself tested its survival. In September 1939, the work was evacuated from the Rijksmuseum along with 30,000 art objects and hidden first in bunkers near the coast, then moved in 1942 to a cave in the St. Petersburg, in Maastricht. 337 kilograms of canvas and paint waited in that cave until the war ended, and every one of those kilograms has had to be protected, transported, concealed, restored, and defended over the course of nearly 4 centuries. In the summer of 2019, the Rijksmuseum launched Operation Nightwatch, the largest research and restoration operation ever devoted to a single work of art, with a team of 30 people, equipped with the latest available technology. What sets this project apart from any previous restoration, aside from scale, is that it unfolds in full public view. A glass chamber designed specifically to house the Night Watch allows visitors to witness the microscopic precision with which the researchers address every centimeter of the painting. And those visitors are not few. More than 2 million people pass through that room each year, turning the restoration process into part of the museum experience. AkzoNobel serves as the principal partner of the project, and the collaborating institutions span several countries: the University of Amsterdam, Utrecht University, the University of Antwerp in Belgium, the Royal Institute for Cultural Heritage in Brussels, and the DESI Synchrotron in Hamburg, Germany. The 13th of May 2020 brought the first public milestone when the Rijksmuseum released a 44.8 gigapixel digital image of the painting. 528 separate photographs made up the final image, arranged in 24 rows of 22 shots each, digitally stitched together with the help of neural networks, and the result allows any area of the canvas to be magnified until the microscopic cracks in the pigment become visible. That ultra-high-resolution image served as the starting point. The truly unexpected lay waiting beneath the surface. The hidden preparatory sketch, published in 2021, inaugurated the series of major findings. Scholars had long suspected that a work of this scale and complexity demanded a preliminary drawing. A radiographic examination in the 1970s tried to find it without success, and the breakthrough finally came through macro X-ray fluorescence. 56 macro XRF scans map the chemical elements present across the entire painting, and the key lay in isolating the calcium contained in the beige paint Rembrandt used to outline his composition. The only known instance of the artist applying this type of preparation, a finding the team christened a calcium map. That same analysis uncovered another surprise. The element maps revealed that Rembrandt painted decorative feathers into the image and then decided to suppress them. The reasons remain in the dark, What those changes do provide is direct access to his thought process as he worked, editing the composition on the fly. During the restoration, a finding of an entirely different nature emerged. Curator Anne Lenders noticed that the dog appearing in the painting seemed modeled after an illustration by Adrien van de Venne, and X-ray analysis confirmed the similarities between the two animals. Rembrandt copied the dog from another artist. What no one anticipated arrived in December 2023, when the journal Science Advances published what is probably the project's heaviest discovery. While analyzing tiny paint samples, the researchers found that Rembrandt covered his canvas with a lead-based mixture before laying down the first brushstroke, something that did not appear in any other work by Rembrandt or his contemporaries. Frederik Brouwers, research scientist at the Rijksmuseum, detailed it thus: "They found large quantities of lead in the dark background, especially in the upper part, where one would not expect these pigments to be present, and in the samples, it was clearly visible that the lead appeared before the quartz clay ground. The hypothesis is that Rembrandt mixed hot linseed oil with powdered lead oxide to shield the canvas against mold and moisture, knowing the painting would hang on a damp wall in the town hall. He designed the protection before he began to paint." July 2024 brought the fourth discovery, when the journal NPJ Heritage Science published the detection of pararealgar and semi-amorphous pararealgar in the work, pigments containing arsenic that until then had been used only in still lifes. Rembrandt applied them in a portrait, and that makes him a pioneer of the use of arsenic-based pigments in this genre. Professor Cohen Johnsons of the University of Antwerp noted that this research opens new avenues regarding the reactivity of historical pigments and the preservation of heritage. And here is where the matter becomes even stranger. A compound that appeared in the analysis had never been detected in a historical painting before, since lead formats had only been reported once, in 2020, in recent model paintings, not in centuries-old works. Each of these findings dismantles a different assumption. The lead layer demonstrates that Rembrandt thought about long-term conservation before he began to paint. The arsenic pigments confirm that he experimented with materials his contemporaries did not apply in portraits. The preparatory sketch proves that the composition was planned with a level of detail no one had been able to confirm until now, and the suppressed feathers reveal that he edited the painting as he worked, making aesthetic decisions on the fly. November 2024 marked the start of the second phase of Operation Night Watch, with 8 restorers dedicated to removing the varnish applied during the 1975 restoration, the one carried out after the bread knife attack by Wilhelmus de Rijk. The method involves placing a special type of tissue prepared with a solvent against the surface of the painting for a short and limited time, and the team has warned that during the process, the painting will look very gray and dull, regaining its vibrancy only when the new varnish is applied. The 1975 wooden stretcher has already been replaced by an aluminum one, and no completion date has been announced for the full restoration. Taco Dibitz, director of the museum, declared that removing the varnish will reveal the eventful history of the Night Watch, and added something that gives the measure of what remains to be discovered. Despite working at the Rijksmuseum for 17 years, he had never seen the upper part of the painting. Not even the director of the museum where Rembrandt's most celebrated work hangs knew it in full. $410 million were consumed by the Rijksmuseum renovation that culminated with its reopening in 2013 after a decade of construction, and when the director described the building, he defined it as a museum built around the Night Watch. Over a career spanning nearly 5 decades, Rembrandt created approximately 350 paintings, 300 etchings, and 100 drawings, and of all those works, this one is still releasing secrets. We began this video by saying that the Night Watch has been deceiving us for nearly 400 years. The name does not match reality. It does not depict the night. It does not describe a watch. The central figures did not occupy the center. The feathers he painted ceased to exist. The varnish that darkened it gave it a false title, and the scissors that trimmed it altered its composition. Beneath all of that, a lead layer no one suspected had been silently protecting the canvas since 1642. Operation Night Watch is stripping away layers of varnish, layers of paint, layers of assumptions, and what appears underneath outlines an artist more calculating, more experimental, and more conscious of posterity than 400 years of art history had assumed. See you in the next video.